There was a time when two-axle freight cars were synonymous with freight trains, but they are now a rare sight. Following the outbreak of the Manchurian incident, military supply transport to the continent increased, prompting the Ministry of Railways to produce many two-axle freight cars to meet the demand. During this period, the emergence of automobile transport began to take root, and to compete with it, the development of specialized freight cars such as refrigerated cars, livestock cars, ventilated cars, live fish cars, and heavy cargo cars, in addition to the conventional categories of covered and open wagons, was undertaken. This diversification included long goods cars and tank cars suitable for military transport, leading to a wide variety of freight cars. In the era when onboard refrigeration units were unavailable for refrigerated cars, a method was adopted that involved filling the ceiling with ice or dry ice to cool the cargo. The year after the 2.26 incident, the Sino-Japanese War broke out, leading to increased transport capacity between Tokyo and Nagasaki to secure transportation to the continent. This resulted in the construction of robust tracks, which was rare in Japan, where the tracks were generally weak. These enhancements also proved beneficial in meeting post-war transportation demand. Meanwhile, as Japan effectively shifted to a wartime regime during this period, state economic control gradually increased, transitioning to a controlled economy with the enactment of the National Mobilization Law in 1938. The military priority economy led to a shortage of ships and gasoline regulations, stalling maritime and automotive transport, thus concentrating transportation demands on the railways. To address this, the Ministry of Railways enhanced facilities and vehicles, especially focusing on the aggressive production of new freight cars. Open wagons, which were lidless at the top, were prized for their fewer restrictions on transported goods, while bogie cars were also produced. However, bogie cars required more materials for their running gear and were thus avoided under the military priority economy. Furthermore, with steel being preferentially supplied to the Navy, the general industry faced shortages. During this period, when steel-bodied freight cars were increasing, wooden-bodied freight cars were once again mass-produced. From the end of 1941 onward, to enhance transportation capacity amid freight car shortages, measures were taken to increase the loading capacity of freight cars beyond the specified limits. Initially, this meant raising the load limit by 2 tons, but as the war situation worsened, measures were taken to allow overloading by up to 5 tons for bogie cars. To meet the increased production and transportation demands of coal, open wagons' loading capacity had to be increased, leading to the development of 3-axle freight cars that could be built with fewer materials. The Toki 900, a 3-axle freight car with a 30-ton capacity, allowed a 30-ton load in a shorter body than the 35-ton bogie cars, increasing transportation capacity by nearly 10% within the effective train length constraints. The frame and axles were made from special materials to reduce weight, and the car was designed to meet the wartime standards with fewer materials than bogie cars. The significant contribution of these 3-axle freight cars in wartime coal transportation cannot be overstated. The combined overloading and heavy use led to severe wear and tear, resulting in many being repurposed for parts in other models post-war, rapidly decreasing their numbers. Despite the overloading and rigorous use during the war, the 2-axle freight cars, which endured these conditions, were again forced into continuous use to meet the swift post-war recovery demands. Ensuring transportation capacity was deemed essential for reconstruction, leading to increased production of freight cars under the slogan "Post-war recovery starts with railways." The focus was on the production of 2-axle freight cars, valued for their low cost and minimal material requirements. Under occupation, production of bogie cars was also directed by the occupying forces, but a significantly larger number of 2-axle freight cars were produced. The outbreak of the Korean War further strained transportation demands, accelerating the production of freight cars and leading to the emergence of many private freight cars owned by private companies. Even in the late 1950s, economic growth did not slow down, and JNR continued to struggle with chronic transportation capacity shortages. Simultaneously, with economic recovery, there was an improvement in living standards, leading to increased emphasis not only on mass transportation but also on speed and quality. With the technological innovations driving modernization, there was a demand for higher speeds and comfort in passenger transportation, and the same was increasingly required for freight transportation. While the bogie cars could achieve a maximum speed of 85 km/h, this was not possible for two-axle freight cars. As speeds increased, the phenomenon known as hunting motion, or essentially wobbling, occurred, raising the risk of derailment. Therefore, the maximum speed of two-axle freight cars was limited to 65 km per hour. Lacking the capacity and time for mass production of bogie cars, efforts were made to see if two-axle freight cars could be modified for higher speeds. This led to the development of the two-stage link suspension system, a linkage mechanism that supported the axle and leaf spring, attaching it to the frame. By adding an additional linkage mechanism to the conventional single link, oscillations were suppressed, and it was confirmed that stability could be maintained even with a 20 km per hour speed increase. Although a maximum speed of 85 km per hour was deemed possible, intense vibrations during braking when the cars were empty led to the decision to set the maximum safe speed at 75 km per hour. The mass-produced WAMU 90,000, featuring yellow-orange stripes and express service markings, began operating as express freight at a maximum speed of 75 km per hour, a departure from the traditionally all-black freight cars. Subsequent two-axle freight cars adopted the two-stage link system, and production gradually increased. However, replacement progressed slowly, and many of the conventional two-axle freight cars with a 65 km per hour limit continued to be in use. As a result, while numerous long train formations operated on major trunk lines, non-express services remained limited to 65 km per hour. Meanwhile, J&R's monopoly on land freight transport gradually began to crumble. As automobile transportation became more active, the Japan National Railways, J&R, Freight, which took several days for intercity transport, struggled to compete. To counter this, further speeding up of freight trains was required, leading to the development of bogie freight cars specifically for containers, which could achieve a maximum speed of 85 km per hour, a speed unattainable for two-axle freight cars. The Takara Container Express, composed solely of these specialized freight cars, began operations. The rationalization of container-based transport and the reduction in travel times with high-speed freight cars were expected to be the savior for J&R Freight. The demand for faster freight trains continued to grow, resulting in the introduction of high-speed freight trains capable of operating at 100 km per hour, a domain where two-axle freight cars could no longer thrive. Containers and covered wagons were increasingly produced as bogie cars, and two-axle freight cars gradually retreated from frontline service. By the 1970s, automobile transportation had rapidly developed and spread, eroding J&R's market share in both passenger and freight sectors, becoming a significant factor in financial strain. Despite the still viable main trunk passenger transport, it became urgent to improve operational efficiency, with speed enhancements being the most effective measure. However, the presence of low-speed freight trains posed a problem. Even as the technical prospects for 120 km per hour operations with EMUs materialized for passenger trains, the infrastructure for sidetracking these slower freight trains was insufficient, and track capacity limitations hindered the increase in train services. Though profitability was deteriorating, there was still demand on the main trunk lines, preventing immediate discontinuation. At the same time, J&R did not have the resources to entirely replace the freight fleet with high-speed bogie freight cars. The solution was a major overhaul of the old two-axle freight cars, limited to 65 km per hour. A large-scale renovation was executed, converting the one-stage link two-axle freight cars to a two-stage link system. This renovation effort started in 1965, involving over 100,000 cars. The work progressed rapidly to meet the timetable revision of October 1968. Additional sidetracks for long freight train formations were also built on the main trunk lines, prioritizing passenger train speed increases. These two major reforms in the freight sector significantly contributed to the overall speed improvements of conventional lines. Despite these efforts, as history later showed, J&R freight operations declined, and two-axle freight cars essentially disappeared.